the results as they trickle in. I have some panelists who understand elections and democracy, and they are going to join me here this evening to discuss the matters as they arrive. So with me, I have Ike Odum, Dr. Isaac Odum, professionally, but we call him Ike, an assistant professor of political science at Carleton University. I have my good friend, Oreku Kusi Ampofo, who is also a political scientist, but he works as a policy analyst based in Canada. I have my good friend, Vida Bugri, who is an education consultant based in France. And then my very good friend, Alfred Appiah, who is a policy and data analyst, also based in Canada. So, ladies and gentlemen, you are welcome. So, today is going to be more of a less formal show. We're just going to have more like a casual conversation about what's going on in Ghana right now as the election results trickle in. Alfred, you are a data guy and also you are very familiar with the social media space. What are you hearing right now? What's going on? Just give us sort of an outlook of what's going on.
I think the key thing is, or at least what we're hearing right now, is about turnout, right?
Okay.
We're hearing that the turnout is lower. Again, this is all people's perception, and then also at least from some of the polling station level results we are seeing, it appears that turnout is relatively lower. There's over 40,000 polling stations, right? So it's by no means representative based on what we are seeing so far, but at least people are saying the turnout is lower from their polling stations, and then also looking at that and comparing to the registered voter population, it seems to be lower. But wait to see the official results. But of course, it's relevant for a couple of reasons, right? Because historically, at least since '96, right, or at least if we consider 2000 as the first turnover year in this republic, whenever the voter turnout is low, the incumbent government tends to lose the elections, and so I think that might be one of the signals that people are looking at.
Okay.
Like, of course, like people are not happy; they rather stay home than go and vote. And of course, it's even more important that if this happens in the strongholds of the ruling party, like the Eastern and the Ashanti region, then that is even more problematic, right? So turnout is one of the things that we're looking at. And then the other thing is the when you look at the projections, right?
Okay.
The professor from KTU whose prediction the ruling party actually trusts, he was projecting based on the 81% turnout, right? So far, of course, again, it's not representative of what we're hearing, but what we're hearing so far is no way we're not going to get anything close to that. I think I'm, conservatively thinking we might be looking at 2016 level turnout in those elections, which would signal that the ruling party might not be able to hold on to power. So it's still early days. We're all still speculating at this point, but basically turnout is one of the things that people are looking at. I don't pay too much attention to the polling station level result, except for like trying to compare to previous years to see what turnout looks like. Because at the end of the day, the aggregation, once we get into the constituency level, that's when we can, actually start making some inferences from the data. Because 40,000, if we only have like 150 or so far declared, that's nothing. So.
All right. Okay. So let me add Zita to the platform. Zita is a PhD in sociology based in Calgary. And so,
Chairman, you can't be disclosing my location anyhow. I'm a high-profile individual, highly influential on the social media space. So
okay.
I'm not in Calgary. I am somewhere in Canada. Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
My bad.
It's important.
All right. I'll be careful next time not to disclose your location. So, but Oreku, I mean, you last time here declared your bias for Bawumia. Are you feeling good about what we are beginning to witness so far?
I think Alfred is right to a large extent. It depends on where the turnout is coming from, and if it is even a turnout. We shouldn't forget that our voter register is bloated. So at times, the so-called turnout might be a reflection of the natural order. If people are really being prevented in voting, and like we have a voter register which is in the range of, if I'm wrong, Alfred, correct me.
Well, are we sure the voters register is bloated?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to say.
So in the range of 20 plus million or so.
So, well, no, we have 18 million. So
we have 18 million.
18
so
million,
this is a
18.9.
So
but 18.9
2016,
for a population of
NPP told us that the voters register was bloated.
30 plus million.
And then we went ahead in 2020 in the midst of the pandemic to compile a new voters register. So I don't think and the EC tells us that the voters register is credible. So there's no way we can be talking about bloated register now, right? Because we have been assured that the voters register, even a deputy EC chair was saying something like the old voters register had pictures of animals in it. Now we know the voters register is clean. So I don't think that we can make that argument unless we disagree with the EC, right?
Yeah, but after we are not here to we're here to make analysis.
Yeah, but what's your basis for saying that the voters register is bloated?
Yeah, so what I'm saying is that it depends on where the turnout, first of all, is coming from, and that will have impact on one political party or the other. It can also be that as our election is becoming more and more clear, we getting the feeling that we are having less irregularities, less issues. So turnout in itself is not really any good indicator for anything. But for me, I have my own theory about turnout. I'm envisaging a situation where in our democracy currently we have a high participant kind of democracy where everybody is involved. Elections is always fought keen and keen. I want a situation where the tension will come down a little bit, and that will be reflecting of the turnout. So currently, I don't know the facts on the turnout, and I think if the turnout is low or high, depends on which region is coming from, and that will determine which political party will be impacted. But for now, I think I'm calm about it. Whoever wins will win. I don't really care. I don't really have a vested material interest that much, but I mean, we all have our preferences and bias. But whoever will win will win. For now,
okay. But it's interesting that you bring up the issue of the high participation, and I think it means a lot because I recently had a conversation with a friend, and it was along the lines of what has become characteristic of our democracy. And he said that participation is very huge, and basically it has become the symbol of our democracy. And the thing is, at the inception of democracy in Ghana, I think we emphasized the participatory element, right? I remember the NCCE doing a lot of campaigns, talking about the importance of participation and whatnot. So on that tangent, if there's a low turnout, it doesn't mean a lot. I mean, Ike, I don't know.
I think I didn't get a chance to develop that point. But
okay.
I can come in because my background wasn't that good. But it's a whole thesis, I hope, that when democracy is very high in terms of participation, especially in elections, it leads to a whole lot of things. You need a balance of parochialism or parochial political culture and active political culture. Where we are now, we have huge participation, which in most cases is backed with clientelism and patronage and rent seeking, which is no way good for a democracy because the stakes are always high. You need a buffer of people who have parochial calculations in terms of participation and don't really care too much to cool the tempers. And I think as our democracy is advancing, as people are becoming okay a little bit, they will realize that government really don't have that much attachment in terms of the stake in our day-to-day activities the way we currently attach to government. So it's something we can talk about, but that is my own.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But I mean, but we are talking about it in terms of what is likely to be the outcome of this election, right? But not with respect to its broader implication on democracy. But if our democracy is more participatory in character, then how does a low turnout really tell us something about what is going to happen? Right, Ike?
Yeah, so a couple of things. Number one, I think because Alfred started us on the voter turnout, I can comment a little bit on that. But of course, democracy thrives on people's participation, right? And so if we notice a high turnout, it's an indication of people's participation. I mean, participation does not necessarily also mean an endorsement of a particular view, a particular party or candidate, but at least there is participation. Elections, for us in Ghana, elections serve as really the primary and probably the most important way that we ensure accountability in our governance, right? It's an essential accountability mechanism, especially in Ghana. But it sounds to me like, as much as we love for people to participate, elections should not be the only. We should not solely rely on elections to serve as a way of holding our leaders accountable. But it seems to be the most primary way, which can be problematic. So that in between elections, then something else is happening.
Yeah.
But I am happy to see that I was looking at some of the numbers here. Like in these elections, we have 12 presidential candidates, right? We have 9 political parties, presidential candidate, right? And then we have 3 independent presidential candidates. So that is multi-party democracy. Even though we tend to focus on the duopoly between the NPP and the NDC, we have to pay attention to these other political parties, because that's what makes us a multi-party democracy. From the numbers that I'm reading here, we have 11 male presidential candidates and 1 female presidential candidate, right? This time around, we are again looking at 276 constituencies with the Guan constituency being added, right? And then we are looking at, I think the number says just about 800 parliamentary candidates vying for 276 seat, right? And then we also have over 100 independent parliamentary candidate. Now, I'm mentioning these numbers because it's an attestation of how involved people are in our political process, right? We have 18.7 million eligible voters. That's a huge number, like what Oriko was making reference to. Huge number of people that have gone to register, have their names in there. Of course, some people register and to get a national form of identification. But this is very telling. If we have a population of that number and we have 18.7 million people on our voters register, that's an indication of an active populace that want to have a say, right? We also know that like with all these numbers, just about 52% of the voters are female. So that's actually a number that is higher than the male voters. So all of these things, I'm mentioning them to highlight the fact that there is, as always, in the Ghanaian space, there is an awareness and people are perhaps willing to participate in the political process. And like I mentioned, elections are an important part of democracy. Elections are crucial, but I would keep coming back to this today. Elections are not enough. Elections alone are not sufficient to make a democracy meaningful. And so democracy, in my view, must extend beyond the periodic ritual of voting. But today we are talking about voting and elections. So we'll focus on that, and then we can talk about how these other state institutions like parliament and judiciary and regulatory bodies can actually serve as a form of accountability on governance as a whole. But briefly, on the point of voter turnout, I think, like Alfred said, historically, if you look at the numbers, the more, I mean, if you have a lower voter turnout in our presidential elections, the more likely is it for the opposition party to win the elections. Now, the only caveat is that unless the low voter turnout is across board, across the country, then of course this holds. But if the low voter turnout is also impacting the strongholds or the key areas that the opposition NDC is also, I mean, in this election, then we have to wait and see what comes out of this.
Okay. All right. Well, I wanted to call Vida, but I think her camera is off. So, but I mean, Zita, what's your? You are on the social media streets, so you know what's going on out there. What are you picking up?
I don't know. Right. Initially, I was confident that it will go the way of the NDC, but how things are going, and with Alfred's analysis last week, I was listening to the posters he was citing and all that. It looks like it might be a very keen contest between the NDC and MPP, and I don't know, probably a possibility of a second round due to the many other independent candidates and the smaller political parties we have. But just based on what I am getting, and again, my source is TikTok mainly. That is where I apply my trade. So just looking at that and monitoring it carefully, in the last week, I've seen people trying to remind people that it's about, this election is about ideas, it's about track record, it's about what people have done. Don't forget. And so I see a lot of people citing figures here and there. Somebody used 200 and something million to do an e-gate. Another person used the same amount to construct a terminal. And so I see a lot of videos around people saying, let's not forget, this is what the economy is like, and this is the way to go. And I also see a significant group also just going with tribal allegiance. You know, Ghana's politics, and of course to a large extent, you know, more globally, that sense of identity is always tied to political parties. So in as much as I believe Ghana has matured as a democracy and people are more discerning, again, you would see the very strong pockets of ethnic allegiance, and it's not about ideas. It's just about, oh, this is where I belong. This is the tradition, and that is how we are moving. So I'm currently in the middle. I'm watching my television now, Joy Live. I'm gonna be on it. I told my fans on TikTok that I'll be coming on TikTok Live. I have a champagne on side. I'm not just celebrating, you know, I'm just there to make sure that we can, you know, calm down, have fun, relax, and not people, you know, go out there and do something crazy. So I wish I could. Initially, I was confident it was going to go the way of the NDC by a significant slide, but based on just watching keenly and being on different people's platform and seeing the comments and reading, it seems to be a keen race, and people are just, you know, politics of ethnicity and identity is kind of strong in the mix, and so we'll see how it goes. But may the best man win, and at the end of the day, it's all about Ghana winning and Ghana being a peaceful country.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've always talked about how, for instance, it's more difficult for the NDC in recent times to win the election than the MPP, right? And because if you look at the pattern, for instance, the margins by which NDC wins elections, especially, and I always say the best sort of baseline is 2008, because that was a really competitive election. The issues weren't extremely against the MPP at the time, but I think they had also displayed certain opulence in government. There were allegations of corruption here and there that to some extent created, I mean, it gives weapons of attack to the NDC to fight in that election. And so the issues were balanced, if you ask me. And so when you look at the margins, it was a very close election. Now, if you look at the elections where the NDC has lost, they've lost by a far more large margin than the MPP. So taking that into consideration, how do we really view this election? Because I don't know, it doesn't seem like the issues are against the MPP, but it's really difficult to tell how this election is going to go.
Yeah, so we don't have to really speculate too much anymore, right? Because the elections have just concluded, and the results are going to start trickling in very soon. And so, but we can obviously, we have the room to be able to make some analysis based on previous record, right? You are right. If you look at the numbers, right, since 2000, anytime that the NDC has won elections, the record shows that the MPP always seem to have a much bigger chunk of the percentage of vote compared to the NDC, even when the MPP, the NDC is leading, right?
Yeah.
So like the 2008 you are referring to, 2008 first round, NDC got 48%, MPP get 49%, and we go to runoff and NDC wins 50.2%, right? It's 2012. They had the highest 51% of the vote. MPP still had 48%, right? In 2016, the MPP had 54, and then the NDC had 44, and then in 2020, the MPP had 51%, and then the NDC had 47%. So there is a trend that you can see there, right? I have mentioned elsewhere that the two main political parties have a threshold over 45 or plus, right? 45 plus. But the MPP seem to always have between 46, right? On average, 46, 48 average there. Whereas the NDC is always just around just 46 thereabout. And so the numbers suggest that there is always, like, it's much easier for the MPP to win elections. And there are so many factors that can account for this. We can go into some of this later on, but it's significant because what it does is that it tells you that the MPP can be very strategic about how to win the elections in Ghana, right? By focusing on not just specific stronghold, but also try to shore up their vote in other parts of the country. If you look at this year's elections, there is one thing that we want to take note of, right? We've noticed that there have some increases. Greater Accra, for example, which is a swing state, okay, has grown in terms of
swing region.
sorry. Yeah, see, look at me. Swing region. So Greater Accra, in terms of the voter registration, has grew by 6.7%. From 3.5 million in 2020 to 3.7% in 2024. Here's the other thing, though. Even though they've grown still a little below the national average, 6.7, the share of the greater of the national register has declined from 20%, well, 20.67 to 20.05%. What am I trying to say? What I'm trying to say here is that even though we have more people in Greater Accra now on the register versus an Ashanti region, right? There is still a very interesting dynamic there. The other thing about the stronghold and percentages is that I've heard people say that in the Ashanti region, if the MPP is able to get 8 people to go to the polls and vote, if voter turnout even gets to like 75, then they have a chance of winning these elections, right?
Okay.
But they are forgetting a few things. Number one, that the NDC is doing consistently well in the Ashanti region. Of course, they are not going to win Ashanti region, not even close, right? But they are increasing the numbers there, and that's going to have impact, right? Obviously. The other thing too is that the two other candidates that are independent candidates that are likely to pull vote from, in some sense, from the NPP are the Alan Chamantin's party and the New Force, who are all Ashantis, right? So they are likely to also get some vote from there, and that potentially helps the NDC to increase, or at least to have a much higher numbers in the Ashanti region compared to previous years. So there's a lot in there that we can talk about. I know Oreku may disagree with me on this, but the Ashanti is not as it's solid, but the NDC is making a lot of inroads there, and I think the two candidates, Alan Tremantin and Cheddar, are likely to also take some vote from the MPP.
The blue in Ashanti is getting lighter. That's what you're trying to say.
Yeah, in some sense, yes. Especially if the voter turnout doesn't go well for them, then
okay.
that's
okay. Oreku, hold your thought there, and I'll go to Vida for her initial thoughts on what she's observing so far, and
Okay. Hello, everyone. So good to have you all and be on here with you. For me, as we all know, Ghana has had peaceful elections over the years, and this is no exception. If we compare the number of brouhahas that happened over for the 2020 elections and that of this year, this year we recorded a death. I don't know if you followed that.
Yeah, there was.
Death, and I think it's quite unfortunate that a democracy like us, quote and unquote, because Ghana is mostly termed democratic only when we are voting most of the time. So I think so far it's been peaceful, and I also join Alfred in what he said about the low turnout in the votes. We see that there have been lower turnout for the voting, and we are yet to find out if that's going to affect the results, if it's going to affect the results. For me, my concern is the fact that a democracy like Ghana, up to now, we, those that live outside of Ghana, we cannot vote. And that, for me, I don't know at what points that we are going to talk about this, looking at the way that the diaspora actually rallies when it's time for voting. They put in lots of money, lots of effort, and so I think we should be able to be given the votes, or given the chance to also express our rights. Thank you.
All right. By
the way, I just wanted to compliment Vida. I love your hair and I love the gap in your tooth. Okay, I'm a girl's girl. I'm a woman's woman. I just wanted to say I've been meaning to say that. I wanted to type it in the chat, but I love it.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, Oreku. So is the blue in Ashanti decreasing in terms of its hue?
I don't think I would disagree with Isaac on that.
Yeah.
I think it's factual. I mean, since I think in every election you see that NDC is making inroads, and that's the nature of Ashanti region, that you see there's significant NDC's vote in Ashanti region is particularly significant. That it is. I think the noise is not coming from my background, so whoever has his mic on, turn it off. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't want.
No, yeah, you are the usual culprit. So make a disclaimer.
So I don't think I will disagree with you, Isaac, on that. I think what I would disagree with you is on the concept of multi-party democracy, and I think that I don't really think that we are multi-party democracy. I think it's two-party state, which we can debate about it. But I think, yes, you're right. We have so many political parties on the ballot, but I normally look at multi-party democracy based on the functional output of it. And since 1992, the functional output has been two political parties dominating, and we have gotten to a point that the rest of those political parties don't make really any impact in the electoral calculus. So for me, I will not really pay too much attention to them. But what you said, which I agree with you, is that if Alan Cash is going to get votes, it's going to take away from the MPP. Yeah,
but do you think, like, are we overestimating the potential impact of the third parties in this election?
Like Isaac said, we cannot, we should wait for the next few minutes to get that answer. But historically, the third force is no third force.
Yeah, but I think their influence has dwindled with every election, right?
Yes. So I really don't really mark them, but maybe Cheddar is going to surprise us. I don't see Alanka surprising us, but I think Cheddar can surprise us with his third force. I'm hoping so.
Yeah, Alfred, what do you think about that? Do you think the third parties can make a dent
You
whereby
didn't make me finish my point. Let me because you know that then is like. But I think one thing I have here that Vida said, which is very important, is why can't we vote? And why can't we vote? The reason why we cannot vote is politics, it's partisan politics. Because you remember there was a ROPA, which was passed way back, everything was certified. The NDC fought hard against it. Afarijan was scared to implement it. So actually I had a paper that I was writing it why, and I put NDC as a veto player. But the reason why we couldn't is that the EC is a veto player in this. So Parliament has passed it. I think the law was that EC should determine when it is feasible to roll PAL out. And since then, Farjan was a little bit skeptical. Since then, subsequent ECs and all the politics surrounding EC. Could you imagine Jane Mensah is saying he's going to allow people in the diaspora to vote? It's going to be chaotic. There's no way NDC is going to agree to that. It's remote in terms of our reality. So I think the reason why we cannot vote is politics. I think the two political parties are all weighing their calculations, and MPP passed that law because I think, and they are a political party, I think they think that diaspora votes come in, put 2 and 2 together, they are more likely to draw more from them. And NDC also thinking that no, it will go against them. They fought against it, and that is why we don't have. It's not logistics. It's not because we cannot do it, but it's purely because one political party will not agree.
One political party will not agree.
What are we as diasporans? What are we doing about it? You know, it's rather unfortunate, really.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate.
I mean,
go on. Go ahead.
I mean, there are countries that cannot boast of our democracy, but they still get to vote out here.
Yeah. But Oreku is putting it on one political party. I don't know how you get to really claim that it's the NDC that is not allowing it.
We're gonna look at the historical analysis.
No, but
that's the law.
No, I agree that, for instance, if the diasporans were allowed to vote, it's more likely to favor the MPP. But your accusation that it is the NDC that is against the implementation of ROPA is where I disagree with you.
No, they officially opposed it, though. Maybe
but how about the implementation?
Maybe you've forgotten. They officially opposed it. They officially said they don't want it. They walk out of Parliament. They officially, every step, by the way. What happened is that I think they realized that it was going to cause a lot of chaos. So they allowed the EC to decide when to implement it. And with this political temperature, do you think any of these ECs from Linda, what was the one that the one she got removed?
Charlotte Osei.
Would you think Charlotte Osei was going to do that? No. The current EC is not going to even think of it. Because he's sitting on a time bomb. If NDC wins, I go. So there's no way he's going to do that.
So no, I guess my point is that the current lack of implementation doesn't stem from the people that initially resisted it when it was passed in Parliament.
I mean, we can talk about let other people talk. I don't want to have a bad talk.
I'm just saying that you're making an unfair accusation here. That's all I'm trying to say. All right. Yeah. So Alfred, we're talking about the influence of the third parties because we've seen them. Their influence has sort of dwindled with every election. But some of the polling is suggesting that they could perhaps take this election to a third round, which I don't see, but I don't know. What do you think?
I don't think they have the ability to do that, unfortunately. And I think that somebody like Alan Chamate, for example, may have overestimated his influence, right? Like in the NPP. Because him breaking away, thinking that he'll be able to bring some of these faithful people that have traditionally voted NPP, and some of his utterances even, like he was he was surprised that Kufuor was endorsing the NPP candidate, and I was like, "What? I don't know what he was expecting." Right? I think he's had this sense of entitlement in the party, but so I don't think that the between Cheddar and Alan, I don't think. By the way, I think Cheddar would even beat Alan German. But I don't think that they have that ability to do that. I think it would take something big, right? I think we haven't even had anybody like Edward Mahama in a while, right? Like when the PNC would try to get some percentages.
Hassan Ayarga would disagree.
He walked out of a press conference 2 or 3 days ago. I think actually it was yesterday. He was upset about something that was said in the press conference. He just walked out. But yeah, no, Hassan Ayarga. He was even last time. Did Akwedonkor beat her or like the Osofo beat him? Chiraboso beat Hassan Ayarga in the poll in the 2020 elections. I don't think any of those parties have the ability to do that. Unfortunately, I think we are stuck with this. Unfortunately, we are stuck with this duopoly for some time, unless we see something that happened in Nigeria with Peter Obi getting the youth and all of that. But I don't. People maybe expected that Cheddar might be the one that will be able to do that. Can you still hear me? Because
yeah,
I think I'm freezing.
Yeah, you are breaking up, but we can hear you. You can carry on.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think when Cheddar came on the scene, right, maybe there was that expectation that maybe he might be able to do something. And then, of course, he started saying things that even, basically made it look like he's basically part of the duopoly, basically, because when people are protesting against Galamsey and all of that, and the kind of messaging that he was passing, because I think that would have those times would have been his opportunity to even align with the youth a lot more, right? And those times when people were protesting against cost of living, first of all, the guy stayed behind the mask for so many months, right? Like there was this mask that was all over town, but nobody really knew who was behind the mask. Eventually, he revealed himself. So I think he missed some chance to try to basically get the youth on his side, right? To maybe cause some damage. But I don't think, as things stands, I don't think any of them have that ability to be able to push this election to the next one. I think this election is going to catch victory for whoever wins.
Yeah. I think he hasn't demonstrated that he's an option. Yeah, he has made some sort of outrageous claims about, for instance, the, building this or pulling the sea all the way to Kumasi and things like that. It makes me wonder that, is this a person really serious about becoming a president? And I have a personal beef with him. In fact, he picked on bald-headed men. So, so yeah. But I mean, Zita, what do you think? What's your impression of maybe Cheddar and the third force and people ask, like, for instance, Alan Chairman, the energy that he has put in this election, where was it in the primaries, in the MPP primaries? Because clearly, I didn't see that kind of energy coming from him when he was running within the party to become the flag bearer. But yeah.
Yeah, but with Alan Chemantin, in a recent interview he talked about how he was supposed to be in line and the nod was given to Nanado and he supported Nanado. So he believed that this time around, and again, I think, and I'm not in any I'm not part of any political party, so I don't know how people lobby and how things go, but perhaps he is feeling like he has lost favor and he wasn't chosen because he was young at the time and Nanado was older. So he made Nanado stand for, at the time that Nanado was trying to be the flag bearer, Alan Chairman believed that he was a favorite candidate at the time. And because he felt he was young and Nanado was old, he allowed him to stand. And he felt like, as a result, they owe him that he was a favorite at the time. He was bright. He talked about his role as part of the founding fathers and stuff like that. But for me, in terms of the a third force, I'm not I'm not impressed with anybody, you know, and again, Ghana, especially Ghanaian youth, are focused on flashy. Oh, you know, the person has money, the person can lead. You know, we don't know the background of this person. We don't know about any feasibility of ideas. You want to dredge some water to Kumasi or whatever. For me, I felt it's ethnic politics, because we have to look at how much trade, or how much in terms of physical outcome, how much trade or business does, you know, Kumasi or Ashanti region generate, that being able to dredge water there makes, in terms of, you know, financial sense or economic sense, you know. So these are some of the things. But the youth in Ghana and more globally, people are focused on externality. Oh, the person has this, the person has that. As a result, they are able to lead, and they keep. And that is why we had a whole Chef Smith scam the entire Ghana about, you know, Guinness World Record and having it, and nobody followed up. We are not a nation that we look up people. You want to, because you need to have at least some experience in public sector, you know, working. We want to see you serving, even if not in a public sector. We want to see some track record of your leadership skill. And it's like, somebody comes from nowhere, there's mystery, and all of a sudden they're a third force. For me, for all those other third forces, I just see it as ethnicity, people playing to their ethnicity. And like I always say, ethnic identity or tribal identity is central. And because it is central to Ghana's politics, we will be stuck between the NDC and the MPP until we have electorates who are beginning to look at ideas, to look at track record, to look at feasibility in policies, and even be able to read. Because a lot of people are voting in this election and they've not read the sector report. They've not read the education sector report. They've not read the mining sector report. They've not read the agriculture sector report. They've not looked at the various sector reports. People are voting in based on just ethnic sentiment and all that. And that to me is always my frustration, because you need to look at what is going on. Some people are voting scared and blood. They are voting parliamentary and presidential simply because of what? The party colors. But some parliamentarians need to lose their seat.
Okay, but Zita, let's stay on that ethnicity dimension, because are we not overflogging this idea of voting on ethnic lines? Because now it's important to look at the history, the origin of our political parties, right? So, for instance, the MPP tradition began in the Ashanti region with the NLM, right? And so you grew up in an environment where a political party forms, your parents support that party, and then you grow up and pick up from your parents, and then you develop your political leaning towards, depending on who your parents typically supported, because of course they are your breadwinners. Now, fast forward to, in fact, even in the early days, the Togoland Congress Party was more aligned with the NLM, right? Because they were all opposing the CPP. Now, fast forward to 1969, and there's an election with Progress Party, which is still the MPP tradition, the NLM tradition. And then there is Wedema, who was previously a CPP guy, but he and Nkrumah fell out. He went on exile and came back in 1969 to contest that election, right? And he's from the Volta region. So he forms a party and its base is from the Volta region. So I think is that Wedema party, which I've forgotten the name of the party, Oreko, if you can remind me, but the NDC sort of also takes its lineage to some extent from that origin. And so we will expect that in the early stages of our democracy, those lines are going to exist. But as time goes on, we are beginning to see it dissipate a little. So, for instance, I have observed something in the Ashanti region that hasn't happened before. There are certain figures that are publicly, expressing their support, explicit support for the NDC, which has never happened in the past. So, I mean, yeah, but Oriku, you get my point here. Are we overemphasizing these ethnic line voting, given that we are also beginning to see it basically fizzle out in a way, not completely fizzle out, but it's reducing?
For me, historically, if you reduce Ghana's election to ethnicity and only tribe, it's unfair.
Yeah.
And it has no evidence in terms of historical, especially since 1992. The political parties, the two political parties, have regional base. They might have ethnic base. I get it. So NDC, predominantly the World Bank, that the term Rollins introduced, being a voter region, and NPP being either the Florida or whatever, or the Texas of the Republican Party. So that base is there, and that base might be ethnic. But the fact of the matter is that in order for you to see whether people vote for their co-ethnic group, you have to go deep and understand. So if ethnicity is the guiding principle of electoral calculation, you would expect that when one political party, so you expect that when NDC selected Atta Mills, you would expect that votarians would have voted against NDC because Atta Mills was not from the voter region, and it didn't happen. Again, as MPP has selected Bawumia, if ethnicity and tribalism was a sole calculation, you should expect that they will vote, or they will not, or they will vote mainly for the other party because Bawumia is not an Asante. So if you stretch that ethnic argument, it doesn't really work that much. That is why you see when Atta Mills was appointed, the Fanti vote really didn't go to him that much. Hold on, when Atta Mills was selected, the Fanti votes didn't really go to him that much. I went to a conference, I think in Chicago, and a guy had done a white guy, he has done a solid analysis on whether co-ethnic or ethnic groups vote for their co-ethnic flag bearer in Ghana's election. And I was shocked. And the evidence in terms of the analysis all pointed to the fact that no, in Ghana, we vote mainly based on the maybe party lines. So the party is rooted in a certain region. People will support the party regardless of maybe the ethnic person you bring. So in that sense, for me, stretching the ethnic argument at times will not really hold in terms of the evidence. That's what I'll say for now.
Okay.
And I wanted to say, when I say ethnic, I'm not saying people are voting based on the candidate, because I mean we should all apply, understanding of the Ghanaian context. It is the history of those parties. It is how from the votarian liken the NDC to Rollins, who was part Ewe. So I talked about ethnicity being like center stage, I'm not saying it is the only. I'm talking about how people align with parties based on the history, based on the founders, and it's not about the candidate per se. It is just based on that, the founding ideologies, who they were, and how it rallied around politics of ethnicity and politics of identity. That is what I mean. I don't mean that, if an MPP should put an Ewe man there, then voters will say, it is an Ewe, so I'm going to vote like that. Because if it is like that, then there will not be a lot of dissent in the MPP, because some of the, MPP people are like, okay, Bawumia is enough now. So irrespective of the fact that he's enough now, he's still on the ticket of a party that Ashantis believe, or Akan speaking groups largely believe, that it is their, in a way, it's rooted in their foundation, or the people who initially started the party are part of them. So we need to delineate that linear thinking, that when we talk about politics of ethnicity, we are saying that it is the people on the ballot, the person must be my group. No, we know the MPP and the NDC are, rooted in 7 ethnic groups. And it's not just, even the Greater Accra, they have that deep-rooted, to be specifically, the Ga ethnic group have this strong connection to the NDC. So that is what we are talking about when we talk about politics of ethnicity. It's not about the candidate on the ballot sheet or the president. It is the history and the allegiance to the parties based on maybe some figures in the past, like the way people in the Volta region revere Rawlings and just say, oh, we are moving in that regard. But like I am saying that people largely think like that, oh, because I'm from the Volta region, because my family loved Rawlings and Rawlings was foundational in the NDC, I vote that way. And I hope we can get to a stage in our democracy where we begin to look at ideas. And just wanted to land with this, that I know, like Isaac said, we are here talking, but they've already finished voting. But I wish people would have looked at, members of parliament quite well and not just vote like, oh, you could have a separate love for a particular presidential candidate and you don't have to vote the corresponding parliamentarian, because Ghana tend to have some level of decentralized system where we need to focus on who is standing in our constituency as a member of parliament, evaluate the person's body of work, what have they done. You can't be in Accra, your constituency is somewhere, I would use in the Volta region, you hardly go there and it is time for election, you're going to funeral, you're making funeral donations, and all of a sudden you are elected back. We need to come to that stage where even I can maybe like a particular presidential candidate, but realize that the person standing at the parliamentary level has not done enough to merit my vote to go represent me.
Okay. Yeah.
Can I comment on this briefly?
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So I mean, Zita is making very, very good point there, which is that ethnicity plays a role in terms of our election outcome. But the other thing that maybe Zita may want to also pay a little bit attention to is the fact that people are informed. The way people vote, are informed by so many different factors, and so we have different people that may most likely have more influence from a particular factor. So, for example, in Ghana, we are placing it in context. You're going to have people that are going to vote for a particular political party or candidate based on the performance of that candidate or party's performance as a government, right? So that's one factor. That's one factor. There are those who would also vote for a particular political party based on the candidate, right? There are people who vote for a particular political party or candidate based on right? How they feel about the economy. So, and of course, that's not to say that is also not partly influenced by ethnicity, right? So there is all these intersections that happen, right? But a lot of the time, in fact, I think that the way we have tried constitutionally to deal with this issue has in some sense helped, but in some sense hasn't helped. So what we have done is that our constitution outlaws ethnic symbols and identities in party politics.
Yeah.
Right. And the idea is to basically de-ethnicize our elections. And so, and I think that's partly why small parties are not doing well, because you have to have a national character as a political party, right? So the movement party or the PNC or the CPP, all of them, and even the most recent one, some of the independent candidates, you have to have a national appeal. You have to be able to, in fact, you actually have to have an office in almost every constituency, right? And a lot of small parties can't do that. And we put that in the constitution as a way to outlaw ethnic identity politics, right? So, and I'm not saying we have been successful at that. I think that what we have done is that we have been able to institutionally put in measures to stop that. But we see that no matter what, ethnicity still impact voting.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the time, when we talk about ethnicity impacting vote patterns in Ghana, we are particularly talking about strongholds like Ashanti and Volta, right? Historically, that has been the case. But other factors such as the economy, government policies, campaign promises, right? Government performance always have influence on voters' decision making. So there's always that intersection, right? Politics of intersectionality. Yeah. But the thing is that I think a lot more people are becoming not necessarily sophisticated in the way that Zita is mentioning, because Zita wants people to go and read the government policy on education MPP's manifesto. No, I mean, you have people like us that may be paying attention to that, but there are millions of other people that is not their primary concern when it comes to deciding who becomes their MP or who becomes their president. Take note that if you look at how Ghanaians vote for parliamentary candidate to become MPs, look at the kind of promises that the MPs give out, right? It goes way beyond lawmaking and legislation, right? And so when people are voting for MPs, they are looking beyond just getting somebody into parliament to make policies on their behalf. They are looking at their daily bread and butter issue, right? So in that sense, you are going to always have people who may be loyal to a particular candidate just because the candidate had doled out some support for them in the past, right? But you're also going to have overall Volta region, Oti region, Ashanti region, where one of the political parties is going to win there. And we have this everywhere. We have this all over the place, right? In Canada here, there is no way the Liberal Party is winning Alberta or Western Canada in any election. That's not going to happen. But we cannot have Bloc Québécois in Ghana because it's based on a particular national identity in Quebec. Ghana, you can't form a political party like that. And I think that's what is hurting some of the smaller parties. Because Mark, you are right. Consistently, what we are seeing is that the voter percentage of the smaller parties is on the decline, right? It's been consistently declining, and that's very worrying for me, even though Oreku seems to think about multi-party democracy as outcome. But I think even symbolically, having different political parties participate in political process is very important. We were, like, if you go to 2004, the smaller parties had just about 3%. In 2008, 3%, right? And then we come to 2012, we are looking at 2%, 2016, 2%, and then in 2020, it's like 1%. So there's consistently smaller parties are losing. But I think there's a connection between this idea of ethnicity in our elections and also smaller parties. My view is that the two big parties have found a way to be able to really hold us sway, so that even if we are not happy with their governance over 8 years, we still can't talk about a third force like the Nigeria sought to do in our system. And I think I wish to see alternative set of ideas that comes from a third party.
What did you say about Nigeria?
No, I'm saying that we have not had the kind of a third party that can make significant impact in elections like what the Nigerians had under the Peter Obi.
Peter Obi didn't make it serious.
No, but Ike, on that score, can it rather be the case that Nigeria's democracy hasn't consolidated to the point where there would be just these two dominant, there will be an emergence of two dominant political parties? Because we just talked about how in our case, the third parties are fading into the background.
Yes.
Nigeria's democracy is not as mature as ours. So perhaps, is it not a symptom of that burgeoning stage of the democracy where, for instance, a third influence can make a little bit of mark, but with time, when it consolidates, two dominant parties are going to rule, basically? Because that's the way I honestly see the Nigerian case, that it hasn't consolidated yet. Yes.
But I think the reason why I don't pay attention to the multi-party democracy concept in our case, it's not because the two political parties has been able to hold a sway. It's just because of the way we've designed our system. I mean, if you have, and I think I said it last time, if you have a presidential system which is based on first past the post, with time you're going to have two dominant parties. It's not the doing of the parties. That's what is going to happen. The reason why in Canada we're able to have Bloc Québécois is because it's a parliamentary system. So in the parliamentary system, strategically, you can focus on a certain area, consolidate your gains, and later push your how do you call it, your your political fortunes. And that is what Bloc Quebecois is doing. But in our case, it's different, because if you are cheddar and I'm voting and I like you and I realize that, okay, I can live with MPP or I can live with NDC, but I cannot live with MPP. I will look at the fact that cheddar is more likely to lose, and regardless of the victory, regardless of whatever he will get, his vote will not be counted. So why would I strategically not vote for the second person or the second political party I can live with? If we really want to have multi-party democracy, in my view, we have to change our electoral system. Once we change it, it will work like magic. If you go proportional representation, you are going to have multiple political parties all making cases, all making some gains, because the counting is proportional to the number of votes you get, and those people will end up representing in parliament. So if we really want to get multi-party democracy, then we really have to change it. The reason why I define multi-party democracy based on output is that until the NDP won in Alberta, we all concluded that Alberta was a one-party state, because we had one political party that had won office for 40 years. And although there were always more political parties on the ballot, but one political party won for 40 years. At that point in time, it was convenient to conclude that it's one-party state. Although, by definition, you can say it's a multi-party democracy, because everybody is allowed, or multiple political parties are allowed to do that. So for me, I'm not really too much bothered about the fact that the third force or whatever is not really working well. I think it's by design. If we change the electoral system, we are going to have multiple political parties. The danger is that then you are going to have people conveniently targeting certain groups of people in order to win certain pockets of the votes, in order to influence electoral outcome. We don't want that, because of our past history, where we had NLM, we had Togoland People's Party, we had how do you call it?
The Muslims.
So we don't want that. We are a Muslims party. We are not in People's Party. And I think that is why the framers sat there and realized we need national character type of party. We want to do presidential system, and we want to do first past the post. And in this case, for a long time, first past the post, according to my own analysis, will produce two dominant political parties. That's what we are experiencing now.
So I mean, I guess there's an American saying that all politics is local. So we don't have to ignore the local dimension of politics, that it originates in place, right? And so you are going to have a group of people who are interested in something from politics. And for that matter, they would support a candidate who has the interest of the place at heart. Ours just so happen that our places are tied to ethnicity in some form. So it kind of so there's that overlap where it's difficult to really distinguish a place-based interest from one tied to one's ethnicity, right? And this clearly happened in the early days of independence, where the Northern People's Party was formed, because at the time, and in fact, I recently looked at some of the motivations for forming the Northern People's Party, and one of them was respect. The idea that Northerners weren't typically respected across the country, and so the Northern People's Party was formed as basically something that would project the interests of Northerners and demand the respect that the people deserve. And so they formed the Northern People's Party. It wasn't necessarily out of spite for another ethnicity, but it was to serve the interests of the people. And if you look at the objectives of the party, you can't totally dismiss them as tied to the interests of, so there's the social construction of ethnicity, right? In the United States, it's similar. You know, people in the South typically vote Republican. It's tied to certain practices, maybe cultural practices, we can say religion and what have you, right? But I think that's the complication of our situation. So there's that colonial legacy too, where we have just shifted to we've gone out of colonialism, and of course, again, places are struggling for development. So again, the politics that emerge is one that is projecting the interest of a group of people who are tied to a specific place. But I think there's hope, because we are beginning to see some level of autonomy among the young people, especially in places like Ashanti that were perceived to be, strictly tied to the MPP. People are becoming independent, advocating for themselves. They take political positions that may benefit them, maybe personally, what have you, right?
But Mark,
Yeah.
I want to try and see if I can correct an impression. There is something about. Sorry, I'll make a quick one here. So when we talk about Ashanti region, you have to look at where these votes that we're talking about are coming from, because Ashanti, just like a Greater Accra, has a lot of what we can call settler communities, right?
Yes.
So a lot of the votes that we are seeing and potential flip from MPP seat to NDC seat are happening in areas that have a number of issues. One of it is Galamsey issue, but the other one is also settler communities, right? That that you would call, typically these are areas that are inhabited by people from outside of or from that particular ethnic group. So there's a different dimension to that. I want us to be able to be nuanced about it. Yeah. Much the same way in Greater Accra and perhaps even in Volta, right?
Yeah. And I'll use Bolga constituency as an example. Bolga was one of the few constituencies that were sympathetic to the PNC. When PNC was almost dying as a political party, somehow they still hang on to some support in Bolga. NDC has taken over now, but even around that time, around 2000, there were really competitive candidates for the MPP in Bolga. We had Dr. Gambila, who was a lecturer at University of Ghana Business School at the time. He had lived in the US, moved to Ghana, and he contested the Bolga seat. The election, I cannot recall by what margin the NDC won it, but he was perceived as a very competitive candidate. As time went on, I guess people were beginning to realize that you didn't have much of a political future if you aligned yourself to the MPP in Bolga, for instance. And it's not because the Frafra people like NDC so much, but it's because of the fact that if NDC, they tend to have stronger candidates. And so if the NDC wins, it's very likely that somebody from that constituency or that area might occupy an influential position in government. And that can bring certain level of development to the area. So then people begin to gravitate towards them, right? And now NDC doesn't really have any strong candidates in these places. Bolga, Bongo, and all these places, the parliamentary candidates that they produce these days are just subpar compared to, for instance, Andrew Awini in the early 2000s, and then Jessica Gambila around the same time as well. Even in the Nabdan district, you had, I think, Boniface Gambila, who actually unseated Asaga, who was a strong candidate at some point, right? So again, I guess it has to do with who the people think is going to better represent the interests of the people of the area, rather than some unquestionable loyalty to a given political party. I don't know.
I agree with you. I agree with you on that. There are so many calculations that come into play during elections, and I think I'm paying attention. I'm going to pay attention to northern region. I'm going to pay a little bit attention to the Savannah region, but also northeast, and how this is going to play out, because it's a very interesting dynamic with the candidacy of Bawumia and Mahama in the northern part of that.
That'll be interesting.
But I wanted us to also look at what we are hearing, or what we have, the videos we are seeing from the polling stations, especially with the involvement of the military, but also the larger question of insecurity and potential and violence that we have seen, or at least even if it's a minimal violence, the ones that we have seen. My hope, like going into this election, I was hoping that we were not going to have any report of somebody being killed or died as a result of our elections, right? Unfortunately, I didn't get that wish. Someone already perished as a result of elections, and so that for me is worrying, even though you can see that maybe just one person experiencing that is not as bad as maybe a lot more people like in the previous election, right? Or at least in 2020. But that for me is very, in some sense, you can tell from the way people were making the case about how it was easy to go and vote at the polling station.
Yeah.
Right. It was much faster. I think one of the reasons why we have that is because of the decongestion that the Electoral Commission has done. So now we have fewer people, I think on average 450 or so per polling station, as compared to previously where you can have a polling station that has over 1,000 people voting, right? So that's a very good thing. That's an institutional approach.
So, but can that also be what has been observed to be a low voter turnout? Could it be?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, but no. So I don't think there's a direct link between decongesting the polling stations and low voter turnout.
Because I mean, we don't have the results yet, so people are just basing that idea of low voter turnout to what they observe at the polling, the numbers that they observe at the polling station. So if there's so if there's a decongestion that has happened, then people might interpret that as a low voter turnout, right?
Yeah, I agree.
So I don't know if that's what is happening.
Yeah, no, we will have the numbers to talk about that, because what we know is that at 2 p.m. in Ghana, the Electoral Commission said that on average across the country, they are having a voter turnout of about 50%.
Oh, okay.
That is 2 p.m. and that was just about 3 hours to the end of poll, and that's not necessarily impressive. That's why I think our first started with a low voter turnout. But I guess, I mean, so I think what I was trying to say is that there is some level of growth or maturity in most of the polling stations, but we can't discount the fact that there have been some violence incidents in other polling stations, which in some sense have brought in the military. Frankly speaking, I wish the military institution or military people are not involved in our elections at all, because of so many things, right? And so when the army issued a statement a couple of days ago that there will be deployment of the military, not to the polling stations, but then when they are called upon, they would come in. I feel like given how people feel about the role of the military, but also because of how the military, whenever they come into our elections, it doesn't go well, right? Yes, they are very big force when it comes to the fact that the police in Ghana may not necessarily have the I don't know, the capacity or resource to quell violence. But the more we bring in the military into our or close to our elections, the more I get worried about it, because it tells me that this is a job that I think the police should be able to do. But I mean, we don't know the details about how this particular death happened. I think there was
I hear there was a shooting or something.
Yeah, exactly. But I just, the optics of seeing people in the military uniform all over the place is a lot of concerning. Not because I'm scared of them, it's just because
the PTSD from
no. Generally, the police technically should be defending Ghana externally, right? And so
Isaac is tiptoeing around the issue that in Ghana, when you see military, then you know it's serious.
Yeah, it is. And so that's why
that sense of fear. Nobody fears Ghana police. So you have every reason to be concerned, but stop tiptoeing around it. When we see military, we know that it can go anywhere. There's no joke. The thing will be contained by either means. Nobody cares about Ghana police. So when we see military, serious business, you get a little bit afraid. That is when they get marshaled in, right?
Yeah, but generally, I mean, Invited, you can jump in on the security situation here. If you have any concerns about there's one loss of life, and
loss of life in the northern part of Ghana, and then I also saw.
Do you have a?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, we're hearing something in the background. I don't know if you have okay. Yeah, there was some sound from the background as if there was a TV on or something. Yeah, but anyway. Okay. Yeah, I mean, the loss of life is, a family lost a member, right? So the pain is going to be the same irrespective. So, yeah, So Vida, if you can, yeah.
Of life and the circumstances under which that life was lost was, should I say, very flimsy. Also, I saw that some journalists were also there was TV3 that was also locked up in a particular country when he saw that they had working some stuffed ballot boxes. I think that's what I saw during the elections. And then there were also some,
Okay, I think you are cutting off. We cannot hear you. And then I don't know if you have a TV on in the background, because I can hear. Yeah. Anyway, yeah.
Take care of my stuff and then get back to you.
Okay. All right. Okay, that's cool. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So, but I mean, do we think that I don't know? Yeah, there's a loss of life, but it seemed like it was a calm election compared to, for instance, other elections. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. It looks like we are. I mean, the thing is that some of the details are going to come out soon.
Yeah.
Right? But those ones that are in the public domain already, we have not had, we have not had like those kind of several incidents. But I think there are some that we haven't heard of. But in the past, there's always a crisis, but there's also tension in some places, and this normally happens. Sometimes it happens during the voting, but also happens right when we transition into the counting, which is where we are now. And so I think we are going to see some incidences like that. But you are right. Whether we appreciate it or not, we are going to make progress, and I think we are making progress in terms of having violence-free elections. And that is a plus for all of us, right? Like I was saying earlier, I feel like there is so much. There is always paranoia, like with the when the elections are happening, like in Ghana, right? Everybody's channeling information now that the two main political parties are holding periodic press conferences. So Sami Jemfi will come, and then the MPP will also say something, and then there is that like
shenanigans. Yeah,
exactly, right.
That's why we had it's a comfortable lead. Yeah.
And so, but I think you are right. Generally, from the incident that we are seeing on TV and on radio, it seems like a calmer than previous elections. But we are still in the transition from counting to releasing of results.
Yeah. I mean, I Oriku or Zita, but in Bolga, there was somebody who was arrested with ballot papers that had been pre-stamped with it's alleged they were printed with on Bawumia, and the person was arrested. It's all over social media. I don't know whether it's been verified or not, but I have a feeling that we treat electoral malpractices very lightly in Ghana, right? In, for instance, America, with the least electoral infraction, you do a lot of jail time. They take it very seriously. But in our case, it seems like usually during elections, these things will happen. They'll arrest people, and afterwards, it's treated very lightly, swept under the carpet, however you want to describe it. Rick, what do you think? I mean,
okay, because you mentioned the two of us, so Zita will go first. But so like I agree with the two of you, like you said. When I woke up, so when I was going to sleep, I said, let me sleep, wake up, and see what's going to happen because of the time difference. When I woke up, I went to some few NDC bloggers on Facebook, which I know normally they throw out some propaganda. Then after that, I went to MPP, people that I know they throw out. Those guys, anything that will happen, they will put it there. So, and I didn't really see anything. I said, oh my God, this election then is pretty calm. And I didn't see any until last minute, I saw that somebody had been shot. I also saw there's a guy who had 79 printed ballot papers for Mahama that has been arrested. So the title to yours, I didn't select that one, which I shared on our platform. I didn't select that. Chuma there was a guy saying NBC, whatever. But there are two things to these things. At times, some of them pure propaganda.
Yeah.
These days, at times, they are part of the fabrication that these political parties will do. At times, too, some of them are truth, where somebody trying to test their system to sneak some votes in and see if it will work. So, and I saw the one Yamin was making a phone call that they have uncovered a lot of ballot papers that had Bawumia. Whether it's true or not, that's the issue. But so back to your question, the reason why in most cases people attempt more practices, people attempt to cheat, and they are caught and nothing is due to them in most cases because they are being sent by certain political powers. So in that case, if I'm cheating for MPP and MPP is to win, they're not going to prosecute me. So it comes down to the way we approach things generally in our country. The corruption, the institutional inefficiencies, the way we do things. So that, if you ask me that, but for this particular election, I realized that, and I even didn't know they've decentralized it that much. Like I think Isaac, thanks for the information. So that might maybe explain why also there is less violence, because once people are in the queue for a long time, that's where the issues start. If people are going to vote and go home, there will be less issues. So I'm thinking that they should try as we go on, like you said, whether we like it or not, there should be progress. Other than that, we are failing as a country. So I think this election is going to be better than all the elections we've done. The issue of the military is worrying. Ideally, we shouldn't have military in our elections, and I agree with Isaac on that. Ideally, historically though, we've always deployed the military. I think in this election we put them on standby to call them when we need them. That's what, at least that's what they said. But historically, we've always put them at the heart of our elections. And like Zita said, because we kind of fear the military, we think when they come in, they say something and we all respect them. With time, because of the police is so corrupt, we've really, as a country, we've lost a lot of respect for the police force. And in our election also, it's not only the police. Normally, we bring in those guys always on the borders, the immigration. We bring in the immigration people, we bring in the prisons, we bring a lot of them to come and help. And because of the numbers of the people that come out to vote and the numbers of observants, because we have people who will vote and after that they will not go home, they will stand there. It used to be. So you need those numbers. So normally you are going to call on the military because of the overwhelming numbers of participation, and at the same time the tendency for somebody to try and misbehave. So, but ideally, and I agree that I think with time, as we're moving on, we should get to a point where we don't even need agents. I think we should get to a point. In some jurisdictions, they're able to do that. You don't really need to train party agents here and there, they station there. We should get to a point where the Electoral Commission will be able to do the elections, do it cleanly, with trust, and there will be less tension. So I think we are moving on. We've done only how many elections? 9 now? 9? Yeah, so I think we still have a long way to go. 9 is not really that much. So we're moving on, and I think we will deliver. Next election is going to be better than this, as it has been the trend. I think you're muted, Mark.
Was it
yeah,
me
okay,
who
yes, I'm muted from here.
next, or is it? I think it's Zita, right? Or
Zita,
is it
yes. Yeah. So, yeah, Zita, we're talking about, the tendency for people to get away with electoral malpractices, which is sort of further emboldens them to attempt in succeeding elections,
And I agree with Oreku in the sense that it is always instigated by the higher political powers. So who is going? That's the thing. People are not doing it based on trying to, because they've been either incentivized by somebody within the political party that they're aligned to kind of misbehave. And I agree with you. We've not seen over the years, we've not seen people being penalized. Stories about people who have attempted or tried to enforce some form of political malpractice in jail. Like, we've not seen stories of that to serve as a deterrent. So people think, even if you do and they catch you, they'll put you in counter back. A few weeks, I'm sure some high-rank political parties will come and, bail you out. And there has not been a precedent of cases where people who attempted to thwart and subvert our democratic process be penalized and not seen it. So I agree with you. There is not a strong, sentiment of, if I do this, there are severe consequences and punishment to it. So there are a few people who are emboldened by their allegiance and they tend to misbehave. But like we're all saying, by and large, I mean, I woke up and I'm following, and I've not, unlike Oreku, I don't go on propaganda pages to see what's going on. I don't follow propaganda. I try to be on the streets on TikTok because that's where all the buzzbats, like we call it, all the really, really you can't be on that platform is mental, man. But that's where it goes down. So I've been watching to see what's going on, and so far I've not seen anything. I'm just hearing from you guys that somebody died and somebody tried to, and Oreku's trying to put it on the NDC that somebody has thumb printed. How can opposition be doing that?
Because Agana said MPP people printed.
Yes, because MPP is the power.
So give an example that they are two. They are all stealing. Like if you lose God, they will cheat. That is a fact.
So, but how do you get to be?
Whoever is in power is more positioned to instigate those types of electoral looting and tampering. That's the point. If NDC was in power and you make that justified, we would say, okay, we are inclined. But you don't see anything, but you're just trying to counter. You see, you are the headquarters of propaganda.
So how do you get to be on both NDC and MPP propaganda platform?
Because Oreku doesn't deal in issues of real issues. He's always on those people who just post anything, they are not credible, and he'll be using that for his analysis. That is why his analysis is
in Oreku's defense, Oreku has been making very solid political analysis that is not from the propaganda WhatsApp group. So he takes it from there, but he's able to.
So let me clarify the propaganda thing. I said I went to their propaganda pages.
So not private.
So for example, when you go to these pages, if there is anything, they will be the first to put it there. So if NDC is doing anything bad, I have some 3-4 people that they'll post it on Facebook quickly.
Oh, okay, you mean Facebook pages? Okay.
Yeah. So when you go there and you don't see anything on the election, then realize, okay, things are good. Then when you go to the Samijan few trained boys that are on Facebook too, that they are doing their own thing, then realize that. So when I went to all these pages and I realized that, this election is calm. I haven't really. Then later the cheating, thumb printing started coming. Then I saw the Yamis one. Somebody, one of my guys, NPP guy that posted. One of my NDC guys posted a Yamin one. The Yamin is calling that, hey, yes, it has to happen.
Yeah. I mean, so Vida, if you want to
talk
about the many issues that we have talked about. Yeah.
In all this, because I think with everything that's been going on with this.
Okay, we're not hearing you. I don't know. It's
Vida, your voice.
Yeah. Do you have headphones on? Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Where is Dampari?
Where is Dampari in all of this?
his people are on the ground.
He's thinking about his job.
I think Dampari panicked when they introduced a deputy commissioner of police in charge of operations. which has never happened before. Akufo-Addo appointed a deputy commissioner who he said would be in charge of operations. And the interpretation was that he was essentially trying to clip the wings of Dampare, because what is operations? You know, so, but the politics going on in the police service is also a problem.
I mean, Dampare will go either way.
Yeah, but I mean, but do you think that the police service should just be made independent to the extent that they may be able to basically vote their own commissioner, as we have it in America? It's like that. I mean, cities, police departments are tied to cities, and they are kind of autonomous, and they're linked from the established, for instance, city or state government, say that they determine who. I mean, there's some politics, local politics involved, but it's not the central authority that appoints those. So I don't know. It's Ghana.
I think in Canada, RCMP is federal, so I don't. And I will check into RCMP whether it's been appointed by. But for Ghana, I would still make the argument that government should have control over the security forces for Ghana, because of the way we do our politics and the nature, the way we are. We want to have total control over the police, but maybe when it comes to issues of elections and things like that, we should find a way to, because there are a lot of things too in US that they are appointed, which at times when I hear it is shocking. Which in Ghana, we don't even appoint them, like how do you call it? I've forgotten. Okay, the example is not coming. But what I'm trying to say is that for Ghana, I would think that the IGP should be appointed by the government. So I like the status quo. The only reason is that the only hope I have is that we should ensure that when you are appointed as an IGP, you do your job professionally. It's like the way we appoint a chief justice. You want to ensure that you've appointed, but you do your job professionally.
Yeah, but Oroko, it's like you are giving more ammunition to the system. We already know how this is going. How is the appointment of the? I don't think I agree with you on that. Like, this appointment is one of those that is coming with the imperial power of the presidency in Ghana, right? So many appointments that the president does, sometimes in consultation with the Judicial Council or the Council of State, but we all know how that is going. So when you just introduce the Chief Justice, then I don't think
No. For Chief Justice, if Chief Justice is elected, I like that idea. Okay. Because of the role that the Chief Justice is in. I was just giving a counterexample, even Chief Justice, which for me, because of the way we've constructed the judiciary, which should be a counter check, Chief Justice should be selected within the ranks for me. But we appoint them, and in the US they appoint them. Even the district attorney.
No, Chief Justice.
Chief Justice.
No, Chief Justice comes from within the ranks. Like it's not the
like the Supreme Court judges. They are appointed. Like
exactly.
So
but whoever becomes
judges are political. They appoint them. Yeah. So then they've already appointed their guys there, and one of them will emerge based on how many numbers you have there. So basically, so for me, but security, because you don't want a situation where you are the president and you have a security boss who is disagreeing with you.
Yeah,
that's what I'm thinking. Like, I will not want that.
Yeah, that's an important
point. Give me the powers. I don't want the IGP. I call him and disagreeing with me.
Yeah.
I take the ultimate responsibility. So that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the US, the counter to that is the National Guard, right? Where, for instance, the president can evoke the National Guard, and if there's a standoff, it can be a standoff between the police and the National Guard, and that's so I think there's some sense of security there, right? But in the case of Ghana, there might not be something like that.
I think, Mark, you were talking about the issue of accountability. I mean, issue of people who flout the law, electoral laws, and that there is less punitive measures, or at least we don't see them being punished, right?
Yeah.
But I think that speaks to a broader issue of the culture of accountability that I think we have a problem with in our country, right? It's not just electoral irregularities or offenses, right?
Yeah.
It speaks to bigger issues within our public service and our political leaders, right? There's always there's a big question about how we ensure accountability, and that's what I was speaking to in my opening remark when I said that it looks like elections are really our only mechanisms by which we hold our leaders accountable. But in this particular case that we are seeing in these elections of electoral officers breaking the law, we have to set example, right? And I think the Electoral Commission has to set an example. These people have to be prosecuted so that it serves as a deterrence, right?
Yeah.
The other things I'm picking up, I don't know what your feeds are telling you, but I'm picking up some interesting information.
Okay, yeah, share it
Well,
with us.
but the thing is, right now you can't trust some of these things, although it's in the public domain, right? So I'm hearing that, in the Volta region, in Hohoi area, you have Peter Amau as the MP, right?
Yeah,
that's like an MPP in a stronghold of the NDC. I understand that it's flipped back to the
NDC.
So we are yet to see how that.
I mean, that makes sense. It was always going to happen,
Yeah, we'll see. And then also in Ayawaso West Wagon, which is the University of Ghana area.
Yeah,
this is where the MPP has the seat currently, and that John Dumelo is, from what I'm seeing here, is winning. In that constituency. Yeah, I'm also hearing, and this one is a little bit.
Where are you reading it from, Mike?
This is Facebook. Seriously, that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm not gonna take it.
Listen,
100%, but I'm also reading here that we are likely to see or A+ is claiming winning the MP seat in
in the Gomoa, why is it Gomoa?
What is it called? Awutu.
Oh, okay.
I can't remember the place. Anyway, but I mean, you are going to see all of this until
as a country posted the way back that Hohoi has flipped, and he's using a lot of
who did that
technologies. Your man as a country, NDC.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, well, I mean, I expect Hohoi to flip because of what happened in the last election. Look, Hohoi has always been an NDC seat, but it is that, and I call it the world's most expensive gerrymandering. What happened with the removal of the Seoul area from the Hohoi constituency? I mean, that gerrymandered the place in a way that made it possible for Amewu to win. He won that area by about 5,000 votes, right? And if you were to take the Hohoi has, I mean, the Seoul area, the Seoul area has over 17,000 votes. And this area typically votes NDC. So if we were to add those votes to what happened to Amewu's vote, the opponent would have canceled it out. But the thing is, I mean, he is from the area. Sometimes somebody can have a personal appeal to the point where they just need a little bit of push to win the seat. And that's exactly what happened in Hohoi. But given the current disillusionment, it's very easily would have been expected to flip back to the NDC. But the Seoul demarcation was atrocious and should never have happened to begin with.
Never.
Yeah. But anyway, so Hohoi flipping wouldn't be a surprise to anybody. And I was hearing that some Damongo is also flipped. And again, that wouldn't be an unexpected flip. If that is the case.
Vida wanted to talk. Vida, you can jump in. I
think Vida, yes.
You guys can jump in.
Let's chip in about John Dumelo winning his seat.
Okay. Yes. Vida, go ahead. Yeah, yes.
Yeah. I was chipping in about John Dumelo's seat being won.
Yeah.
Talking about
yeah, we're not hearing you well. But anyway, talking about John Dumelo's seat, I mean, we cannot hear Vida well. I don't know if it's the headphones, but But yeah, but Zita, I mean, what does that say about, for instance, people in the creative art industry joining politics and the appeal these days? If A+ also wins the seat as being reported, does that signal something? I mean,
it does. It's about and it does. It's about one thing I've realized as somebody who's on social media, and you all pray for me. 8 years time, me I'm standing. I wanted to go to Keston, but nah. I'm
Where are
here.
you standing? Which
I'm standing
constituency?
in Tema Central. That's my constituency.
Central.
That's where my
Oh.
the entire community. My dad was the president, so I'm hoping I can leverage on all that.
Which party is
Zita, you're
ticket?
standing for which party?
Which party?
NDC.
Independent.
I was down for NDC. I wanted to do independent, but I realized independent might not win. But
So
that's
Zita, you standing NDC?
Central is an MPP seat. So my goal is to try and win it for the NDC in 8 years. So
That's gonna be have you checked the numbers? It's a big, and it's Tema Central, you said?
yes, it's a big MPP place.
Yeah. Over 15,000
Historically.
difference. 15,000
Yes.
That's usually the margin.
Yeah. Like, well, let's see. Yeah,
No,
like,
but
I
like
think-
historically, that's it's
I said, don't be a party. Don't be a party.
No. I'm cheering for you, but I'm just telling you the reality.
You are making me sure. Yeah, no, I understand it's a strong MPP seat. I know that. Yeah.
Yeah, so you're going to say.
My point is, we leverage whatever celebrity status, whatever influence you have, you leverage that to your advantage. You might not clinch it at the first or second round, but those kind of admiration and public love does really trickle in. But for me, the thing is, yes, celebrities and people in the creative arts can join, but my thing is, what is their motivation? And personally, I've seen John Dumelo evolve, so he's shown, some level of competency that he's able to do the job, as a leader. He's evolved. He's also kind of initially I was skeptical, but he's raised the standard that, as young people, you can get into farming, and he puts this dignity around just being able to work, and no profession is beneath you. And so I'm happy if he wins. I don't know if you people were following, there was a little scuffle during the special voting in that constituency where Ma Lydia was busy, sharing stuff, and then was being interviewed and claimed that, oh, I wasn't here, but there was camera capturing her giving stuff. So there was a little scuffle at the beginning, but I'm hoping that my following is going to trickle in for me. Tema Central 20. I'm not sure what 8 years ago. But yes, I initially wanted to go to Ketu South, which is currently being held by that lady, Jifago Mashi. I wanted to go play it on Ketu South, but that would be an easy clinch because
it would be an easy clinch.
Oh, of course.
No, but you have to win the primaries first. So I don't know what the easy.
If I would go independent, I don't need to go primaries. I will leverage.
So you're saying that if you go independent, there will be an easy clinch.
I'm not saying it's going to be an easy clinch, but it would take away from her vote. And you might not win at the first round, but my strategy is simple. In the next 8 years, I'm going to be going to Ghana, going to public schools, building capacity, sharing what I'm doing. And so even if I don't win at the clinch, but I don't want to play it safe. You were raised in Tema your whole life. You've never lived in the Volta region, and then you're going to stand. I want to stand in Tema Central. I know it's a strong MPP seat, but I'm always the first to break stuff. So I know that my constituency is a strong MPP place. So I know Isaac is like Zita. It is, and Isaac will send me the numbers later. Numbers. But yeah,
guys, I encourage you to go.
We are in full support.
8 years, I will not be here. 8 years, my blood pressure will be high whilst I'm watching with my family, looking at the numbers and either crying at the end of the day or celebrating.
We will support you. The only thing is that the professors don't do well when they go back.
Please leave me alone.
The professors, we have a lot of professors that
don't sit up.
Yeah, they do book long over there.
Desktop politicians.
Vida, if your internet and everything is taken on,
Vida grew up in Kumasi, right? So she
I am.
Yeah.
Personally, it's not my thing to go for a seat, but I am in support of that. Of course, as a woman, first of all, and also for the fact that I think I don't follow you on social media, but I just get into interact. And you speak on this particular platform. I think you got what it takes. I can Oreku are saying. I think it's possible, of course. I'm not in terms of
You see, you're
MPP,
using
but
the right
you know,
vocabulary.
Yeah,
You're using the right vocabulary.
You are
It came
giving yourself
organically.
away.
It came organically.
It is possible.
no,
Well,
this has really been taken by the MPP side that you cannot just use it loosely, you know.
I know, right?
But it's possible, Zita, I'm behind you. You could be the first, you know, always.
yeah.
Go for it.
The thing
I
though
will
is
be the
that
first to wait for
in Tema Central, I don't know. I think is Ibi Bright, who is it's still a female who is the NDC candidate for this year, right?
Is she also not a creative industry person?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And she's been standing for, I think this will be the third attempt. Yeah, she needs to take several seats and let me come.
I mean,
know.
when you make your entry, perhaps by then she would have.
Oh yeah, once I make my entry, everybody say, and I'm ready because I if I can deal with all these men like Oreku, I can deal with all these politicians.
I'll be the one to come and. I'll be the one to come and support you.
No,
have you procure your card?
Don't come to my constituency.
You don't have a card.
No, don't come to my constituency. I don't want them to say, "Oh, she thinks she's a doctor." All her friends, PhD. That doesn't work in your favor. You gotta act like you're a grassroots. You gotta act like you're for the people. Once they see all that, it will not go in my favor. So, if you bright, sit down. Yes.
We will organize people to come and support you.
So, but Oreku, I think you need to do further work on the idea that the professors don't do well in electoral.
Oh, you see, you are hitting Agane's ambitions as well, right?
No. It has nothing to do with me. Come on, please.
Oh, okay.
No. I have no horse in this race.
Okay.
But, yeah. I'm just being curious. That
you remember Agbambabin, when Agbambabin was under pressure, I think at a point the NDC whole machinery wanted to come after Agbambabin.
Okay.
To the extent I think somebody contested him in his seat. And Chemeza Buntu went down there to help him to campaign.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Agbambabin said something which I will never forget. He said, you know, I have been there for a long time. There are a lot of professors in parliament and they are all moons. When they come, they cannot talk. So people should vote for me. All what I'm trying to say is that most of the professors we know in Canada here went back home.
Yeah.
Where we know our own Zato, our own Macpessa is not been going well. I think this guy also what's his name? Paul.
Paul is an early entrant, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you know.
Who again? We know a lot of people that went in there and it doesn't mean to not go well. But I'm talking about the fact that the professorial experience reality is different from the ground reality. So if you go and talk about philosophizing democracy, nobody's going to listen to you. you just have to speak their language and you have to try and play the dirtiness at times. And it will come with the terrain and with time. If you want to be refined, then you get refined. I think that's what is going to happen when you step into Ghana's politics. You realize that a lot of the gender analysis, Zita, you have to throw it away for now. A lot of the sexual analysis, you have to throw it away.
That's sad, Oreku. It's very sad for her to throw
to get the power. Because
that's exactly. Isn't
a lot of the things you say, they might not understand it. And the way you want to articulate it, it's not that they are not discerning. No, I think Ghanaian electors are discerning. But the reality of your existence in most cases dictate the things you want to hear. And that if you live out of the country for a long time, so a lot of professors will go and talk about decolonization, blah blah blah. Ghanaian people have moved beyond that. They think that in most cases our politicians are stealing money and they should share the spoils with them. The national cake. We use a phrase called national cake. What is that? National cake is shared. Everybody want a bit to eat. So in that case, but it's possible, Zita. I mean, I think I like you for that. And today you are nice to me, so I'm nice to you too.
And don't be nice to me, Oroku. And my candidacy is not up for the discussion, but I just wanted to throw it in there that 8 years, I'm heading Tema Central. I'm standing. I'm not gonna give up.
Forget about Isaac. Don't look at the statistics.
No, I've posted the past 20 years results on my Facebook page for a few years. Last year, I think, when I was thinking about it. So Isaac is spot on. It's a strong MPP seat, and it's not like you are winning by just a few. It's a solid MPP seat because the demographic in my neighborhood is mainly Akan speaking. And again, I don't want to touch on the ethnicity bit, but having lived there my whole life, and my father being like president of the one of our neighborhoods and stuff like that, it's that kind of a seat. So I know what I'm up against. I just feel like it's always disingenuous for most of us to go back to our hometown, a place we didn't grow up, a place we didn't live, a place we cannot really relate to the realities of the people, and just leverage on our family names or whatever social currency we have to win. I just feel
I agree with you. That is very sincere.
So,
yeah.
I would just say you can
rather standing where I was raised. I know the problems in my area. I know the people. Everybody knows, like, to a large extent, because of my father. My father owned a lottery, so everybody knows our last name. You can't mention our last name and nobody knows. Oh yeah, these people are quite. So I wanted to do it there, and pray for me. I will be crying at the end of the day, or I'll be celebrating. Either way, we keep moving forward.
Yeah. And then Ike, is there any new breaking?
Well, I'm hearing that Nandom has fallen for NDC. I don't know how true that is.
But Nandom, was it held by MPP?
Is that not former Andrews Derry's position?
Yeah, it was NDC.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Well, that would be a surprise.
Yeah.
Even though Ambrose is, and look, he may as well go for the NDC, but he's somebody that they like.
Yeah.
I remember growing up in Bolga. Ambrose spent most of his life in Bolga, and he was very liked by the Dagatis in Bolga at the time. So, so if he wasn't the one, it wasn't likely that the seat would have ever gone to the MPP.
Yeah.
But if it flips, I mean, he's been there for some time now. So if it flips, that's not surprising either.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of these things are just people wishes. We'll see.
I mean, hey, we can join the speculation train. I mean,
at least for now, right?
Yeah,
because that's the thing about Ghanaian politics. Like even news, breaking news, right? You normally have to give it 24 hours for it to talk. For you to know what actually is happening, but everybody's claiming a win until the actual result come out.
Yeah. Hey, but I've come to trust, breaking news in Ghana.
Yeah.
There's usually no rumor in Ghana, man. It's I guess with the current nature of media, social media, things leak easily.
Yes.
Somebody says, okay, I'm only confiding in you, don't tell anyone.
Yes.
And then he sends it to another person. And by the time we realize it's across the entire social media.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, okay, that would be a surprise there, but not a surprise. Yeah.
I'm watching out for Central Region.
Central Region. Okay, what like, are you looking at it for the presidential vote in general, or the specific constituencies that you?
Well, like, it's the Central Region is very interesting, right? I mean, it's you never know where it's gonna go.
Yeah,
and the NDC now has more parliamentary seats than the MPP, and so and that has not always been the case. So, but I think the MPP has won presidential, like in my constituency, for example, in Ejimako and CM, it's a very interesting dynamic there. So anyway, we'll keep an eye on some of this. There's always this what we call casualties, right? There are some people that either hold in office and then they drop out sometimes from the primaries, and then and then also from the general election. So we are going to see some people who are going to lose seat, and then we're going to say, wow, you didn't see that coming. So we'll keep an eye on all those.
So who is your constituency? Who is a member of Parliament, MPP, or NDC?
NDC. That's the majority leader.
Ato Forson's constituency.
Forson, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that is solid NDC, right?
It is for well, it wasn't always like that, right?
It wasn't.
Remember those days? It was NPP under Edumaze. Remember Edumaze?
Okay.
Central Regional Minister, and it flipped, and then it's been. But I mean, I think
since he came in, Ato Forson came in 2012, right?
Sorry,
2012.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's been coming strong, very strong.
Kufuor's first and second term, and that was all.
Yeah, he was famous for something. Did he?
Edumaze?
Yeah.
He was the one who followed. He used his car to follow somebody. I think detained one guy,
driver or something like that.
Yeah, the driver, and Kufuor reprimanded him, and came up with the issue.
Yeah, those were the days. There were consequences for misbehavior. Yeah, these days
but it's not. I think some of my MPP guys are complaining.
They are complaining
on Facebook that the turnout is not good. People need money.
So we know where this is going.
I think the internal coalition is not going on well. Because those guys, like goodness, once you see some big powers within certain quarters complaining, then it's not going well. Because
but Oroko, you wouldn't be surprised if Mahama wins this, right? You wouldn't be surprised, would you?
Of course. I mean, it's 8 years. Mahama is supposed to. I mean, I like I said last time, I think Mahama should win. NDC should win. I am hoping that maybe a surprise will come and Bawumia will pull through, but NDC should.
Because Bawumia has worked hard, right?
He has done a. I mean, and I think. If you don't know Bawumia's background or history, and you put Bawumia and Mahama there, and you put it into any objective, whatever lens, with no knowledge of the history, you vote Bawumia. And somebody did a
what do you mean?
For example, if you look at the campaign that they waged, the way Bawumia carried on with this campaign, the way Mahama carried on with this campaign, and you put it to somebody who doesn't have any history of them.
Okay.
I think Bawumia sound more convincing.
I mean, I don't really know the analysis you're attempting here because, for instance, if the issues are in your favor, you probably wouldn't have to do certain things.
No, we are not talking about reality.
No, but what are you talking about?
I asked a question.
Yeah.
That would you be Bawumia has done a good campaign, and I'm saying yes, he's done a good campaign. The issues are not in his favor. First of all, we're talking about an economy which is really not that great or not that good, and you have how do you call it? 8 years tenure ending, which is also in itself is a tough one, and you have an economy which is really not good. The economy is not good. Put those two alone is enough for you to be voted out. So for Bawumia to even make this election close.
I mean, we are not sure that it's close, though. I mean, it depends.
I mean, the election is going to be close, but they're going to NDC. I think NDC is going to win, and I've said it over and over and over. That NDC is going to win this election. If NDC doesn't win this election, we should dissolve that political party because the election is for them. There's the margin maybe we will talk about is the closeness, but I think they should be able to win this election.
Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, we hit a 2-hour mark here. I think we've exhausted the issues. Riku and I
be observing the Tema Central election results. So, Honorable, we've marked the 2 hours. Some of us need to watch our constituencies.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, I mean, I can, Riku, we will still have to, reconvene and continue conversations on a different platform. And so, well, it's been nice having this conversation. We thank our viewers for joining us. And then we'll come your way again after the election to do a post-mortem right? Yeah, and then, all right, guys. So thanks, and well, Vida, better luck next time with your equipment so that we can hear you. But thanks for joining.
Thanks for having us.
All right, guys. Yeah.
You let a yum 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 yum. Nayela pere mat nayela pese. You let a yum 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 yum. Nayela pere muna kapela chora kakisa bayari hela pere balungna baire tupa ani imping tutna asanta tapage bayu tutele masankele yura babantu bigara bayari hela pere bongna baire tupa ani asikul jatuna ikina kine kille sikul yakine titatia undilla sikul gatia satasua nzadla sikul gasua korakua kole sikul gakua sare ilera yum 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 nayela pere mat nayela pese ilera yum 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 nayela pere muna kapela chora kakisa bayari hela pere balungna baire tupa ani imping tutna asanta tapage bayu tutele masankele yura babantu bigara bayari hela pere bongna baire tupa ani asikul jatuna ikina kine kille sikul yakine titatia undilla sikul gatia satasua nzadla sikul gasua